Hello everyone, you're watching the channel World Army. T-72B3M, also referred to as T-72B4, is an upgraded variant of the T-72B3 main battle tank, MBT, developed by Uralvagonzavod Research and Production Corporation. The T-72B3M tank was exhibited for the first time to the public during the 2014 Tank Biathlon World Championship held in October 2014. The first batch of 20 upgraded tanks entered service with the Western Military District of the Russian Army in February. The first T-72B3M tank was inducted into service by the Belarusian Armed Forces in June. The layout of the T-72B3M is identical to that of the standard T-72, with driver's cab at forward hull, fighting compartment in the center, and the power pack at the rear. The tank is manned by a crew of 3, including a driver, a commander and a gunner. The middle section of the forward hull houses the driver, while the turret accommodates the other 2 crew members. The tank features an advanced fire control system and a new thermal sight. The mobility and combat characteristics of the tank have also been improved to compete with the most advanced tanks worldwide. The T-72B3M tank is also equipped with radio systems for encrypted digital voice and data transfer, snorkels for deep fording, and a built-in blade for self-entrenching. The T-72B3M is armed with a 2A46M5 125mm smoothbore gun, which is an advanced version of the 2A46M cannon. It can fire a range of ammunition, including armor-piercing discarding SABO, APDS, high-explosive fragmentation, HEF, and high-explosive anti-tank, HEAT, as well as 9M119 Reflex, NATO code name, AT-11 sniper-guided anti-tank missiles. The projectiles and missiles are loaded by an auto-loader. The AT-11 sniper missile has a maximum range of 4,000 m and can engage tanks fitted with explosive reactive armor. The secondary armament includes a coaxial 7.62mm PKTM machine gun and a roof-mounted 12.7mm NSV heavy machine gun. The turret is also mounted with a bank of 8 smoke grenade dischargers. The commander is provided with a new panoramic sight with thermal vision. The sight includes a day channel, a laser range finder and an image intensifier to observe the battlefield, search for targets and assign them to the gunner and direct the turret. The fire control system is interfaced with SOSNU sighting system and a ballistic computer. The SOSNU sight includes a second-generation thermal imaging camera, laser range finder and a channel for missile guidance. The T-72B3M MBT is mounted with the new relict explosive reactive armor, ERA, replacing the previous Contact 5 second-generation ERA. The new armor offers superior protection against shaped charges, tandem warheads, APF-SDS rounds, anti-tank guided missiles, as well as low-velocity and high-velocity missiles. The T-72B3M tank was exhibited for the first time to the public during the 2014 Tank Biathlon World Championship held in October 2014. The side skirts are hinged with large flat ERA modules. The tank is also equipped with an overpressure-type nuclear, biological and chemical, NBC protection system. The T-72B3M MBT is powered by a new V92S2F engine in place of the old 780 horsepower diesel engine. The new engine is coupled to an automatic transmission system and improved drivetrain. It develops a maximum power output of 1,130 horsepower. The power plant provides a maximum road speed of 60 km per hour and a maximum range of 550 km. The tank features torsion bar suspension and running gear on either side of the hull, with 6 road wheels with the idler at forward and drive sprocket at the rear. The inside of the track is supported by 3 return rollers. The first, second and 6th road wheel stations are installed with shock absorbers, while the upper parts of the suspension are protected by rubber skirts. The vehicle can negotiate a gradient of 60% and side slope of 40% and can ford at a maximum depth of 5 m with preparation. The T-72 is a family of Soviet-Russian main battle tanks that first entered production in 1971. About 25,000 T-72 tanks have been built, and refurbishment has enabled many to remain in service for decades. The early T-72 versions are considered as second-generation main battle tanks. It was widely exported and saw service in 40 countries and in numerous conflicts. The T-72B3 version introduced in 2010 is considered a third-generation MBT. The development of the T-72 was a direct result of the introduction of the T-64 tank. The T-64 Object 432 was a very ambitious project to build a competitive well-armored tank with a weight of not more than 36 tons. Under the direction of Alexander Morozov in Kharkiv, a new design emerged with the hull reduced to the minimum size possible. To do this, the crew was reduced to 3 soldiers, removing the loader by introducing an automated loading system. The much smaller design presented a problem when selecting a suitable engine. This led to the introduction of the 700 horsepower 5 TDF engine, which was unreliable, difficult to repair, and had a guaranteed lifespan similar to World War II designs. Production of the T-64 with a 115mm gun began in 1964. Plans for an upgun T-64A with a more powerful 125mm gun had already been made in 1963. Problems with the early production run were evident from the start, but a strong lobby formed around Morozov, who advocated for the T-64 in Moscow, preventing rival developments and ideas from being discussed. Thank you so much for watching World Army Channel. And if you like the video, please share it and do hit the notifications button for more updates.